What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Happy Friday. It's another edition of the Transfer View, and oh my, there's plenty to get into this morning. So why I'm a little bit late is because I was checking out some little things that are just sort of happening right now. I was just looking at some of the images of Sir Jim Ratcliffe meeting with everyone at Old Trafford and Carrington over the last few days, meeting with Eric Ten Hag, meeting with some of the players, meeting with some of the staff members as well. So I was looking at that. I was just getting a little bit of confirmation about another story as well that we're going to be chatting about this morning. So it's all go in the world of Manchester United. It's all go in the world of transfers. It's all go in the world of strategy and forward planning. And we're going to be covering all of it this morning. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let me know where you're watching from, what the weather's like where you are, and what you're doing with yourself on a Friday morning. Are you one of those people that likes to have Friday mornings, quite relaxed, quite low key, maybe have a cup of coffee? I've got mine, of course, as always this morning. Do you like to have, watch the show with a bit of breakfast in bed, or you're on the go, you're commuting, you're in the gym, are you doing, preparation for exams or coursework or something like that? Have you got some time off heading into the new year? Let me know what your Friday routine is today. We've got plenty to get into. As I mentioned, we're going to be chatting about INEOS, specifically Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford, meeting the Manchester United staff, employees, the manager, of course, some players, and really this big meeting that happened yesterday was really kind of a mission statement, shall we say, from INEOS. The reaction to that, some quite interesting stuff was said by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford. We're going to be talking also about Dan Ashworth, the latest linking him from a move from Newcastle to Manchester United, the likelihood of that happening, and if anything has happened regarding talks between the two parties yet. I want to talk about Anthony Martial. That's really the reason I was a bit late this morning, because I was just getting some extra confirmation on the Martial stuff, but we're going to be chatting about that because social media went into meltdown yesterday, as is often the case, by looking into words and quotes, completely taking them out of context, completely not using logic, thought, and reason involved in that. So we're going to be chatting about that, clarifying that a bit this morning. Obviously, we'll have the latest news regarding Jadon Sancho, his impending move to Borussia Dortmund on loan, whether or not that will happen today, or the very latest sort of news and happenings surrounding that. So there's plenty to get into this morning, certainly. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Kristen in the gym early in Colchester. Big up to you. Yes, new year, new Kristen certainly in the gym. Trivash says just had egg and toast for brekkie. There you go. That's not a bad breakfast. I like the sound of that. Paul says sitting down in sunny Thailand, listening to you. Big up to Paul. What else are people saying here in the chat? Harold's watching in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Big up to you. As I mentioned, the UV community is completely global. It always is. Stephen's watching from the United States. Well, where in the States? If that's on the East Coast, that's what? Like 4 a.m.-ish at the moment, isn't it? If it's on the West Coast, it's even earlier than that. So big up to you, Stephen, as well. Ray's watching in bed with a coffee. Yeah. Nice stuff. Watching in bed with a coffee. I like that as well. John Wixon's at the gym at 4:06 a.m. in New Jersey in the US. That is dedication. Proper dedication. We've got Senegal, we've got Nigeria in the chat. We've got it all over the world. The global community is global communitying right now, certainly. So let's get into this meeting that happened yesterday regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford. We know they've been at Carrington and Old Trafford the last few days, really beginning their audit, their oversight on everything Manchester United. And yesterday, they spoke to a lot of the Manchester United employees at a big powwow at Old Trafford, and had a lot to say and really laid out their mission statement about what they're looking to do and achieve moving forward. We can get some of the story. It comes from The Athletic up on the screen. It was a piece written by Laurie Whitwell and Adam Crafton. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe has told Manchester United staff that he is not concerned about making money from his investment and instead solely wants to return the club to winning the biggest trophies. It continued by saying United's new co-owner said the football team had been failing for the past decade and the INEOS era is determined to bring success by creating an elite environment. He insisted the reason for United's substandard output compared to other big European teams with similar budgets who compete for domestic titles and Champions Leagues every season will have to be properly addressed or the status quo would remain. Now, that's quite interesting, certainly, because this sort of blunt appraisal of United's sporting performance since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement is really in a sharp contrast to the type of rhetoric that's previously been used by members of the club's hierarchy. Because, of course, even as recently as back in September, former CEO Richard Arnold told staff that United were, quote, closing in and making progress on Manchester City, as well as, quote, chasing down other rivals, which we all know is just a crock of bull, certainly, isn't it? So actually being realistic about the situation, can't argue with that, certainly. It continued by saying the British billionaire addressed an audience of employees at an Old Trafford lounge in an all-hands meeting on Thursday and drew applause for what sources speaking to The Athletic on the condition of anonymity describe as, quote, straight talking and, quote, honesty about the issues that have dogged the club for years. Ratcliffe acknowledged the club has shown commercial resilience in the challenging period of the pandemic, but he made it clear that he would be measuring achievement by silverware rather than revenue, and everybody should focus on that priority. Sources say that this was a liberating decree. And I mean, it's not, these are quick wins, certainly. Proof will certainly be in the pudding, no doubt about that. But saying that, you know, the achievement is measured by silverware rather than revenue, I think that's what a lot of people certainly want to hear, isn't it? Finally, it was also said by Laura Whitwell and Adam Crafton, Ratcliffe said he does not care about making a return on his $1.3 billion investment. He also wants to make major improvements to Old Trafford and Carrington, stating that his $300 million additional funding, which will be converted into equity, is only the start of his support to that end. Staff have described being impressed by the scale of ambition and appreciation of the current reality. Now, let me know your thoughts about that in the live chat, and even if you're watching after the fact, after we've been live, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about what you think about what is being said there. Look, it's significant, certainly. As I mentioned, proof will be in the pudding, no doubt about it, but I think it's what a lot of United fans, and certainly the staff, if this report is accurate, wanted to hear. I mean, the bar's so low when it comes to executives and people with stakes in the club talking to staff members or fans at Old Trafford that anything is a bonus, right? Anything is a bonus. If you look at Joel Glazer, for instance, he's not directly spoken to staff in a group setting since his family 2005 takeover. So Ratcliffe's presence in person, as well as the message he delivered, according to The Athletic, is said to really invigorated the workers involved in there, and they have been impressed by that. Now, as I mentioned, it wasn't just Sir Jim Ratcliffe who was in attendance for this all-hands-on-deck meeting yesterday. Ratcliffe was joined by Sir Dave Brailsford, who's the INEOS Director of Sports. He's conducting an audit of United's structure and personnel as well. They do say that Brailsford did most of the talking with an emphasis on more abstract terms about philosophy, yet also leaving a good impression. So, you know, with that kind of stuff, when you're talking about philosophy, that's kind of great, but again, it's more abstract stuff, and you go, okay, what's the real crux of everything? Now, you would have probably seen on social media already today some pictures going around of really, Brailsford and Ratcliffe meeting a lot of the Manchester United people involved with the club, whether it be Ten Hag, whether it be, I think there's a picture of Rasmus Højlund meeting them, and I think they met with Mark Skinner, the women's manager as well, some of the female players too, in addition to staff. Now, Erik Ten Hag did confirm this in his press conference yesterday as well, that the pair conducted a lengthy meeting with the Manchester United manager on Wednesday, which Ten Hag described as very positive too. And according to the report, several staff in attendance on Thursday were reportedly left feeling inspired. But, and this is the key thing too here, is that that's great to hear it all. That's great to hear it, and that's great to hear these things put out there. That's what Manchester United fans want to hear, that it's about winning trophies and success is judged in silverware as opposed to driving revenue or anything like that. And he doesn't care about getting a return on his investment. It was stated before, this was a legacy project to him, and he wanted to take Manchester United back to the top. That's great, but It does say in the article that still the staff in attendance carried a lot of caution about how Ratcliffe would put his plans into place. It was felt that he and Brailsford are applying pressure to perform, but also encouraging people to be part of the change. And that's really the key thing here. That my sort of takeaway from it was that those buzzwords and seeing those things are fantastic and cool. That's at least they're not dumb and naive to the situation. But we'll have to wait and see. And I know sometimes it isn't what people want to hear, but we've been lied to extensively as Manchester United fans, to the point that eventually, owners, the Glazers, just stop lying. They just stop saying anything, really. And it's easy to say things in front of a group of people. It's easy to say things in a room full of employees. It's easy to say things to the media, but the real proof will be in a couple of years' time. What does the success look like on the pitch? In a couple of years' time, how have we operated in the transfer window? In a couple of years' time, have the beginning stages of improving Old Trafford, improving Carrington, and removing some of the debt from Manchester United? How is that all going about, right? And also those questions that I can speak for myself, I had previously about how is this all going to work? How are these things going to mesh together? Those questions still remain unanswered because, once again, we're going to have to see it in practice, because I still do think there's going to be a lot of, political manoeuvring to this whole situation. What happens the first time that Joel Glazer and Avram Glazer think about a certain way on a certain topic regarding football matters, and Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc flex their muscle, if you will, about some footballing decisions and go, no, we're in control of football matters. You delegated it to us. We're going in this direction, and we know how soft and fragile the Glazer ego is. So what happens then? Is there then a fallout? Do they then accept that? Are they willing to take a step back? Because it's all great, and this goes back to words, isn't it? It's all great to have things written down. It's all great to say things, but how they actually happen, how they actually, how it actually plays out can be two completely different things. So when I saw the reporting of that meeting yesterday, absolutely positive stuff, because music to Manchester United fans' ears that they want to deliver success and they want to win trophies, but we've heard it all before as well. So it's, proof will be in the pudding, but certainly the Manchester United employees are or felt inspired by it, and it's already more than the Glazers have done when it comes to speaking to them and meeting with a lot of people too. But that bar is incredibly low as well. So yes, that's how I kind of feel about it at the moment. Super chat here from Aminor said, red flag, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is lying, saying he's not here to make money. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I would think, I partially agree with that, of course, when it comes to, when you put in 1.5 billion pound of your own money, because it must be stressed, and this is what's the game of sort of telephone that goes around with footballing reporting nowadays, is there's this feeling that he paid for it, with debt and all that kind of stuff, and then it turns out that wasn't the case. It was paid out of his own personal fortune. Is that the trawler company was set up, and he paid it through that. But if you spend that amount of your personal wealth, you would think that money would come with it. And look, they don't talk about the commercial success of Manchester United without the mindset of somewhere in the back of their head going, we're still going to make money. This is what's kind of baffling about the Glazers anyway, really, isn't it? Is that I saw David Ornstein. It might have been during one of his interviews he did with Five. I'd recommend it to check out. Or it might have been on Sky Sports. Either way, where he was sort of saying that the commercial side of Manchester United is wildly successful, even with all of the mismanagement, even with all of the sort of footballing failure that's happened over the past decade. Still, the commercial side is still wildly successful for Manchester United. But just think how wildly even more successful it would be if Manchester United was successful on the pitch. If Manchester United were dominating the Premier League, if Manchester United were winning regularly Premier League titles, Champions League titles, or every season a minimum they got a trophy or two, then the commercial success would even skyrocket even more. Nobody would be able to touch us. That goes back to the sort of original comments when it came to this whole situation of Manchester United doesn't necessarily need a sugar daddy. They just need someone that's willing to put some money in and cares about winning. The Glazers have never cared about winning. It's only ever been about money, and you say to them, right, you can make this amount every year, and you can take your dividends out. That's not going to happen for a few years now, but you can take your dividends out and you can make this amount of money, or you can make significantly more than that. Might be a bit of effort, might take a bit of hard work, might require you also to put some of your own money in and fix things up and spend on certain aspects of the club, but you'll, triple, quadruple, maybe even more so, the money that you currently get right now and the business makes. Are you willing to do that? No. No, I'm not willing to do that. Why? Well, we'd have to put our own money in. We're not doing that. It would require work. We don't really care about that. We only really like the Buccaneers. We like the Buccaneers. That's our baby. In Tampa Bay. Yeah, we don't really. This is just the cash cow. That's all we care about. And you go, well, that cow, you could make it a bit more sort of fighting fit. You could give it the right food, and then sort of the milk that you get from it could be a lot better. No, it's going to make milk anyway. So we don't really, we don't really care, to be honest. So, of course, when it comes to Ratcliffe, because I'm not here to make money. I mean, if he sat in front of a room of employees and went, I'm here to make money. I want to make my money back. That would be massive red flag, wouldn't it? So, like I said, when you're in a room full of people, and this goes back to something we're going to talk about with the Ten Hag comments about Anthony Martial, there's certain things you are and you aren't going to say in certain settings, isn't there? And you have to kind of take that with a pinch of salt. But some of the words certainly are encouraging. But Manchester United fans are completely scarred when it comes to words and promises and failure to deliver, certainly. So we'll have to... I think a lot of Man United fans, like with the whole transfer market in general, like with players, when they say, I only believe it when they're holding up the shirt, or I only believe it when the announcement's made, they'll only believe it once action is actually happening, because I think any element of trust is long gone with a lot of Manchester United fans, and they're certainly right to. And also as well, there is still the stinging feeling of this scenario that we're currently in right now still wasn't the ideal scenario. And I'm not saying, you're saying Qatar was the ideal scenario. I'm not saying that at all. The ideal scenario is that either the Glazers wouldn't be here right now, or two, we would be working towards a date or a time period in which we knew they weren't going to be here. That's not the case. It's something, because a couple of years ago, would not even thought that this would have been possible, in that the Glazers have less of a shareholding in the club. They have less of an influence. They still got the majority influence, but less of an influence. And they're not in control of football operations. So you can see that as a win. But also, on the flip side of things, you can see it as it's still not the ultimate goal, is it, as well? So, again, proof will be in the pudding. I know I've said that 10 million times this morning, but certainly it will. How many likes are we currently at the moment? We've got nearly 900 people watching, only 100 likes. Let's see if we can get the likes up early and see if we can move from here. See what people in the chat are saying here at the moment. As All Elite says, DTA, don't trust anyone. That's certainly, I think, where a lot of United fans are at the moment. Captain Caveman says, healing process, indeed. What else are people saying here at the moment? Sena Yonga says, I read some chats describing Sir Dave's interview as bull, but then you don't know anything about running a business. Let's have faith, because they will have to follow through with their promises. What else are people saying here? Messi Move says, Rat said they won't take dividends like it's a win. He just gave them over $1 billion. I see through the smoke and mirrors. Basically saying, well, the Glazers won't have to take dividends. They just got a load of money as well. All Elite says, I like QV, I like Owen, so I like the vid. Have you? It's a good question. It's a good question. And I hope you all answer, All Elite, in the live chat as well, certainly. I hope you all answer that question. Wizard says, if I'm INEOS, I would release a statement every day for the 5-year-old fans that can't understand how to read. We are only here for the football. And Ben says, Ratcliffe indeed not making money. Glazers are. Stop playing words, Sir Rats, until he owned 51%. I'm not trusting this guy. So look, this is what I think a lot of people in the chat are kind of proving my point when it comes to all of this, is that, they're good words, but we're going to have to see action. We're going to have to see action, and some of the sort of longer-term aspirations still haven't been achieved either as well. So, yes. Kristen says, real question, where is KG? KG, I don't believe, is in the country at the moment. He's out of the country. He's at a wedding, I believe. So that's why he's not here. And, of course, Flex is on Sky Sports. So you're stuck with me this morning because my two co-hosts, the other 2/3 of the UV Trinity are otherwise occupied at the moment. So that is why. And if you do want to check out Flex, he's on Sky, I believe, right now on the transfer show on Sky Sports News. So you can check him out too. Big up Flex, representing UV certainly. Let's move on. Let's talk about Dan Ashworth. A bit of an update about Dan Ashworth and an update about Manchester United's liking for the former Brighton, now Newcastle sporting director. Of course, now with INEOS having these talks and putting their plans into place, the links of executives coming in continues to get stronger and stronger. Dan Ashworth, Paul Mitchell, and things of the like. The latest when it comes to Dan Ashworth is the following. First of all, David Ornstein has said in a Q&A with The Athletic is that the feeling in the industry is that they being INEOS, will probably appoint a sporting director and a head of recruitment to work beneath Sir Dave Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So that kind of gives you an idea as to what the hierarchy is going to be. It's going to be, obviously, Jim Ratcliffe at the top, Sir Dave Brailsford at the top, Jean-Claude Blanc as the CEO, and then they're looking to appoint multiple directors, one being a sporting director and one a specific head of recruitment. So the sporting director, something's going to be Dan Ashworth. The head of recruitment, people are assuming, is going to be Paul Mitchell. Ornstein continued on by saying, INEOS really like Dan Ashworth, but there has been no approach to Newcastle so far. INEOS, though, are prepared to pay what is required to get the people they view as their chosen candidates for certain key positions. Now, it must be said, I saw it was I think is it Craig Hope? I think he's the reporter regarding sort of Newcastle or certainly the North East in the Daily Mail for Mail Sport. And he was saying a couple of days ago that the general feeling within sort of the footballing industry is that Dan Ashworth likely is going to go to Manchester United, which is somewhat surprising, I guess, from a couple of months ago, because if you'd have said a couple of months ago, Dan Ashworth go from Newcastle to anywhere else, but even Newcastle to United, you would go, well, why would he do that? I mean, he's had a very successful few years, certainly his career. He did excellent work with the FA, obviously a fantastic job at Brighton, and then going into Newcastle United, I mean, it's a project with really unlimited bounds in terms of the growth, in terms of the wealth, in terms of really the security, you would think. And we've seen how much Newcastle have grown in just the last couple of years. You would think that's an incredible project for him. But he was sort of suggesting that maybe the total authority in that role at Newcastle isn't as encompassing as it would be at Manchester United. And because of it's still Manchester United at the end of the day, and because it's a huge project, I mean, there's sort of two very different projects there, really, isn't it? You've got a Newcastle United who've got unlimited wealth. They're the richest club in the world, and they could really grow into something extraordinary in the future, and it could be very exciting to be part of that project. Or you've got sort of building up a reputable, well-known club into something bigger than really they've ever been. Or you could go to Manchester United and you could really oversee the entire sort of sporting operation slightly under Sir Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But you could be a major executive at that club and restore them to the former glory. And that is really a bit like Jim Ratcliffe is saying, as a huge sort of legacy project, isn't it? And they work well together. Well, certainly INEOS really like him as well. And it might be a situation of bringing him in with a manager they might have worked with previously, Graham Potter, very concerning. But that might be a real exciting sort of proposition to him. So according to those within the industry, certainly there is a feeling that one might happen. And I thought it was quite interesting what they were suggesting the other day that Newcastle have been quite non-committal on the subject, and the suggestion was that the reason they've been quite non-committal on the subject is because actually they sort of really do feel like that it might happen. So this is what I've been saying for however many days and however many weeks at this point. That's the kind of brick by brick process that I hope to see as a Manchester United fan. That's the kind of process that I want to see in terms of getting these executives in step by step and doing this process right and making sure that we get this right in terms of building the foundations and getting this strategy, basically mapping out this strategy and then sticking to it. Because over the last however many years, it's been no strategy. The organisation at Manchester United has been a complete catastrophe, a complete mess. And then every single time we think we've got some plan that we're going towards, a couple of months in or a year in, we just split and go, no, do it again, rebuild. No, do it again, rebuild. This guy, who's this guy? Oh, he's involved in transfers. Does he know anything about transfers? No, he's rubbish at transfers. He's terrible still at transfers. He's awful at transfers. Okay, well, he's in charge of them. That scuppers this, that scuppers that. It's all a big domino effect. So the important thing, really before we even think about managers and all this kind of stuff and players, the important thing is getting that structure in place first, getting the right people. How often have we said best in class with footballing experience in the senior executive roles that have got experience of turning things around and being successful, and that's the key thing first. So it goes into Jean-Claude Blanc, then Dan Ashworth, then Paul Mitchell. Then they have a discussion and say, what do we think about Erik ten Hag? Let's have a discussion with Erik ten Hag. They've been having meetings with Ten Hag. Do we feel aligned with Erik ten Hag? Does Erik ten Hag feel aligned with us? Erik ten Hag's got 18 months left on his contract. Should we have a discussion about if he was to sign a new contract, would there be certain terms and provisions we'd want taken out, i.e. sort of strong veto power on certain players in recruitment? Would we want to tweak that? Is there other, managerial or I guess head coach candidates that might be a better suit for our vision and for our sort of project going forward? Let's have a discussion about that. Let's not just have a knee-jerk reaction to all of it. Let's not just completely just push the button down or push the lever down when it comes to the dynamite, explode everything immediately and be like, what do we do from here? Let's have a bit of strategy first. That's something that's just not gone in hand with Manchester United for so long. Strategy and football people in charge of making footballing decisions. That's the key part of it that comes first. And then hopefully the rest will kind of follow as well. So Dan Ashworth would be a key addition to that. I mean, look, he's had success pretty much everywhere he's been. In his last 3 jobs, certainly did a great job at the FA in terms of just look at the England side right now. I think was he technical director of the FA or something like that. In addition to that, obviously the work he did at Brighton. That club's incredibly well run, but if you just look at from a transfer recruitment point of view, some of the gems that they found, and he's responsible for putting those systems and again those departments in place when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to scouting, when it comes to getting those transfer deal done. He's instrumental in that. And then obviously the job he's done at Newcastle so far with the recruitment that they've done. I mean, it turned a relegation team. They spent money, but it turned a relegation team into Eddie Howe's first half season. When did they finish? Top 10, 10th or something like that, into qualifying for the Champions League in just a couple of years. And again, it's not just Dan Ashworth. A lot of it comes from the manager and the coach and the players, but it all has to work together. There has to be synergy. It absolutely is. So he'd be key for that. And one of his sort of first, I guess, tasks when he came in would be saying to Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford, who should the head of recruitment be? I think it should be this guy, or I'd want to work with this guy. And I'm sure even if those discussions, they say they haven't happened yet, but those discussions would be, if we were to bring you in, who would you recommend for a head of recruitment? Who do you think would be the right fit for a head of recruitment? And it would appear that Paul Mitchell, I mean, even from, this goes back months, doesn't it? Even before INEOS were even leading the race, as it were, Paul Mitchell was linked with a job at Manchester United. So I think that one would be likely quite well. But that sort of hierarchy would be a hierarchy certainly to get excited about, wouldn't it? People that are, quite world renowned or certainly known within the industry as being very successful in those positions. And also, it's not just about bringing them in, because we've brought people in with a good track record before, haven't we, at Manchester United in certain areas, but it's also about bringing them in and then allowing them to be able to do their job effectively too, giving them the tools to be successful, to be effective, to get the work done. Because we've brought people in like Ralph Rangnick in the past, who's well known for being a sporting director and building clubs and finding talent and finding certain quality transfers, and we brought him in, and then he spoke too much and maybe was too insightful, and we got rid of him. So it's not just a case of bringing them in, it's bringing them in but allowing them to actually do what they're meant to be brought in for, which again is very significant. What else have we got here in the chat? OHB says, Owen seems like the type of guy to have cats. Owen, can you confirm or deny these allegations? Well, it would appear the only one alleging this is you, and no, I'm not a cat person at all, really. I'm not really that much of a pet person. No. I feel like there might be a bit of projection from OHB there. I feel like he's probably saying that, spitting out cat, all that kind of stuff. Big up Rich in the chat, says hit the likes, people. Big up to you, Rich. We've got a couple of super chats here as well. Staffo says, this is Manchester United. Those who bring us back to the top will have an everlasting legacy. They will live forever. I think that's very true as well, is that people, it's the same thing as whoever, whatever manager is. Well, look at all these people that have come in, whether it be not so much David Moyes because he was picking up the mantle from, he had a league-winning side, didn't he, of course? Sir Alex Ferguson's last league-winning side. But you look at people like Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ollie, Erik ten Hag now. All of these people have taken this job with the mindset of, if I can be that guy that wins Manchester United their first Premier League title since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, I'll be immortal. People will always remember me as that guy that, picked it back up for United. And I'm sure that Jim Ratcliffe probably thinks the same. Oh, if I could save Manchester United, that would be massive. Zane says, we should get Dybala, 12 million release, make a swap. We need someone to take the load off Bruno. I think United need to sign a striker, a cam, a centre-back. Wingers should not be the priority. Well, certainly we're not getting a Paulo Dybala in January or anything like that. That's just not happening. It's not. I mean, from the information that we certainly have, it's going to be at most some very low cost loans. Realistically, that's dependent on all of the players that come out in January too, which there have been a couple. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, as I've stated before, that it's going to be maybe a loan signing or two. Might be a striker to help ease the burden on Rasmus Højlund a little bit. But yeah, the any big signings or permanent signings this January aren't happening. And also with Dybala comes big wages, and Manchester United are trying to literally do the opposite. Even in the summer, Paulo Dybala, it's big wages. We need to be signing again those sort of younger players on the way up. We need to be signing those less established names and then building them into something. That's when you get into the recruitment at Manchester United. That's, if you've already got a very successful team, then you can put in those successful names and they can assist, but it needs to be sort of long-term vision as well. That's what it really needs to be for United. Now, speaking of which, Anthony Martial. I do want to talk about this, and I'm glad I left myself some time to talk about this because social media went into a meltdown yesterday. Shock, I know. I mean, it's social media, and it's Manchester United fans on social media. But social media went crazy. A lot of outlets really incorrectly reported this, and this is why it's so important when you see quotes and you see things that people have said to go and watch the footage. Go watch the footage, see which context they were said in, and also use your brain a little bit. Use your brain, think a bit of, with some logic, and not just blindly accept things to be fact just because people have put them on social media. So this is what Erik ten Hag said yesterday regarding contract extensions. Erik ten Hag was asked at this press conference ahead of the FA Cup third round match against Wigan at the DW on Monday. He was asked, what's going on with these contracts? We've heard reports about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof having their options triggered. We know that Hannibal Mejbry's got an option to be triggered for 12 months. We know that Rafael Varane's got one. We know that Anthony Martial has got one as well. What's going on? So Ten Hag said the following. He said, we are talking with Rafa Varane and Anthony Martial, and we triggered the options on Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, and Hannibal Mejbry, right? So just once again, to clarify, he has said, we are talking with Raphael Varane and Anthony Martial, and we triggered the options on Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof and Mejbri. So what he's really saying there is, we triggered the option of 3, we haven't triggered the option of the first 2. Why? They're too expensive. Rafa Varane, 340k. Anthony Martial, 250k. In comparison, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's on like 90, 95. Victor Lindelof on 120. Hannibal, he's on 5. Now, people went crazy because they just took that first bit there saying, we're talking with Rafa Varane and Anthony Martial, and people went, what? You're talking with Anthony Martial? You're going to give him a new contract? Oh my God, what's going on? And I saw big people saying this. I saw big outlets saying this as well, which they later had to retract and take down a lot of their stuff. Well, in an update, Rob Dawson from ESPN said Manchester United expect Anthony Martial to leave in the summer, despite a suggestion from Erik ten Hag that there are ongoing negotiations over a new contract. Ten Hag said United are talking to Anthony Martial and his representatives, but the discussions are unlikely to result in a new contract, and without fresh terms agreed, Martial will leave on a free transfer in the summer. What a shock. What a shock. I mean, this is where I just don't get it, because I saw so many quote tweets. I saw so many people going, this is what's wrong with United. Why are Man United in talks with Martial? Why are they chatting to him about a new contract? This, that, and the other. And just think for a second. Let's just think for a second. What is he going to say in a press conference? He's asked about contracts, specifically triggering the options that they have on everyone's deals. He's not going to say, we triggered these 3 and we didn't trigger those 2. Why? They're too expensive. Manchester United are broke. We've got no cash. FFP's kicking our ass. He's not going to say that, because that was probably going to jeopardize any transfer business that they might want to do with any of the players as well. He's also not going to say, Rafa Varane, we didn't trigger his extension. He's too expensive, but we kind of want to keep him if he's willing to accept reduced terms and maybe a more performance incentive based contract. Anthony Martial, we're just not really interested. Too much money, it's not happening. He's too injury prone, we're getting rid of him. He's not going to say that. Nobody is going to say that in a press conference. So you just say, we're in talks. Talks can mean anything. Talks could be, hey boss, what's going on with my contract? We're not triggering the extension. Am I going to be offered a new one? No. Talks could be anything. And it was just, I get it. I understand where it comes from in terms of just the worry. Manchester United is run like a shambles. We know it's been run like a shambles for years. When Phil Jones got a new 5-year contract, when was that? 2019, 2018, whatever it was, that was baffling. I remember when Eric Bailly got offered a new contract at Manchester United as well. That was baffling. So I get it. I get where it comes from, because it'd be just a Man United thing to do. But at the same time, it's, I think, plainly obvious as to what's going on. And again, all of the noises that we have heard is that, again, it's very transparent. It's very easy to see what's going on here at Manchester United. Those players that they triggered the option on isn't even necessarily like a long-term solution to what they want to do with those players. It's an extra year. It's to give themselves a bit more, agility and flexibility in the summer to be able to sell them. Would we be shocked if Victor Lindelof gets sold in the summer? No, of course not. And for those that, I've seen people that suggest that, what would you get money for Victor Lindelof for? He captained his country. He's an international player. He's still in a relatively decent age. You could get a decent fee for Victor Lindelof. He's played in the Premier League for ages, and he's an international player, and he's not a bad defender. Is he one of the best defenders in the world? Of course not. But he could go to a lot of clubs across Europe, across the Premier League, and get a decent fee for him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the same. Technically, he counts as a homegrown player for a Premier League side, and he's got Premier League experience. You can get a decent amount of money. It's just entirely logical to trigger that option on his deal. Those other 2 players, we tried to sell Anthony Martial with a year left in his contract this past summer. It didn't happen. Nobody's interested. Why is nobody interested? Because they look at the guy's injury record of how many games he played or he's not played over the last 3 years. I don't know if he's completed 90 minutes over the last, definitely the last season and a bit now, season and a half. I think it stretches back to even like 2 or 3 years or something ridiculous with Anthony Martial. So no club within their right mind is going to come in and spend a lot of money or pick up his contract for 250k. It's just not going to happen. It's entirely logical. And with Raphael Varane, the Raphael Varane discussion is so strange to me as well, because when you talk about, got to get those wages, that 340k is excessive, people get really defensive about it, and they start going, you're saying Varane's rubbish? Are you saying that he's not, Victor Lindelof's better than Raphael Varane? You're saying that Raphael Varane doesn't deserve it? He's played so much in his career and he's won so much, he deserves that 340k. And you go, well, okay, of course I'm not saying Raphael Varane's not as good a defender as Victor Lindelof. Of course Raphael Varane's a better defender than Victor Lindelof. Look at what he's achieved. But also be realistic about the situation. Also look at Manchester United's FFP and their finances. Also look at Raphael Varane and how often he's played, or how often he's had to pick up injuries, or how we've had to manage his wear and tear on his body. I mean, he's 30? Raphael Varane is 30 years of age, and even last season, there were certain games where, we can't play him today. Why? Well, we've got a big game coming up in a couple of days, and he'll break down, And, when you look at Raphael Varane, as you can see on the screen in just a second, of course his career is massively extensive and his record does speak for itself. But ultimately, Manchester United need to get out of that kind of way of thinking of he's achieved so much and we'll just give him anything we want. We have to fix a lot of these problems we've made ourselves, and it seems crazy, I know, to suggest that Raphael Varane is a problem, and you're saying that Raphael Varane is the problem. No, for me, I'm just saying that again, it makes total sense. It makes total sense to me that you would want to trim the wage budget, particularly when it comes to next season, when we're not going to be in certain competitions as well, realistically. I mean, the crazy one for me, and we'll get Anthony Martial's player profile up on the screen actually now as well. Anthony Martial, you forget just how young he is. I mean, he's not even 30. Not even 30. It's because he's been around for so long. And Martial is one of those players in one of those cases, isn't he? That you wish it worked out. You really do. You wish it worked out. And he's another one that his career's been hurt by injury too. Had some really bad ones and been moved around in all different positions. And when he came in, we all thought it was going to work out. And we all thought we'd signed, 50 million down the drain, and the debut that he had and all this kind of stuff and the Ballon d'Or clause. But it's not worked out. It hasn't. And that's the strange thing, isn't it? Sometimes I think with football fandom is we cling on maybe a bit too long. We cling on too long to certain players, and we cling on to this is going to be the year, or this is going to be the moment, this is going to be the time, and it's just you've got to know when to cut bait. Unfortunately, particularly with players with injury records that are on high wages, football's a ruthless and relentless game. Manchester United got to be more of that, particularly when it comes to these contracts and these wages. And in addition to that, we have to deal with it because we're the ones that put them on these high wages too. There is, for me, no justification to trigger a 1-year extension for Anthony Martial at 250k a week. And with Raphael Varane, likely the same. People can say, well, what about sell-on value with Varane? You're not going to get that much money anyway, particularly if he's on that amount of money. So yeah, United are going to have to run the risk of possibly him going on a free. I have no doubt in my mind with Varane too that he will have received offers, and he will receive offers from big clubs around Europe for next year. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. He has said, hasn't he, that he'd want to end his career either at United, Real Madrid, or Lens, his first club in France. So if his contract were to expire and he were to leave this summer, it would either leave going back to Madrid or going back to France. Either way, he won't get 340k a week in that contract, in the same way that Anthony Martial won't get 250k a week either. And that's also something I think we have to realise, is that these players at this club, they're on inflated deals that they wouldn't get anywhere else. And that's our fault. That's like when you sign Anthony, who's on 20k a week for £85 million, and you put him on 200k a week. Why'd you do that? Was there any need? Was the deal going to fall through if you put Anthony on 100k? Was the deal going to fall through if you put him on under 100k? If it was his dream move and what he really wanted, you could have put him on a smaller wage. I think he probably would have accepted it. He probably would have accepted that. So that's when it goes back to United have got the biggest, or one of the biggest sort of wage sort of salaries, budgets in the league, and you're not getting return on investment there at all. Not a chance. So United need to fix it. And it starts, and people sort of deflect the blame by going, well, before you sort out Varane, you need to sort out this person. Before you fix your Varane's wage, get rid of, Anthony's wage, or get rid of Maguire's wage, or get rid of all this kind of stuff. Well, Raphael Varane, it's the most pressing one because his contract is expiring now. You have to, deal with the problems that are immediate, that are happening in the current moment in time. It's, Anthony and Maguire and all those other players, they can come later on. And hopefully they will, possibly in the summer. But if someone's contract's expiring in 6 months, again, logically, you would fix the problem that's happening immediately, as opposed to, the people that are happening in several months' time. So that's the latest when it comes to Anthony Martial. I just wanted to sort of point that out because I thought, I wasn't surprised. Nothing really surprises me anymore with social media. But there was a lot of engagement farming, shall we say, yesterday with lots of it was easy, wasn't it? It's easy to go Martial new contract ... or Man United didn't talk to Martial of a new deal, and eyeball emoji, and then the reaction you're going to get. I can't believe it, Man United terrible. The real question should be, is this actually true? No. No, it's not true. So, yes, that was the latest with that as well. How many likes are we currently at the moment? We've got nearly 1,200 people watching, only 230 likes. Oh. I wish I had the soundboard. By the way, actually, when it comes to the soundboard, a couple of things. I've got some very, very exciting additions to the soundboard coming. I'm saving them for probably the match view on Monday, or the next time, certainly, there's a live show with Flex and or KG. And I've got some very exciting additions. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but very exciting. So that's cool. And also, with some of the match views coming up, lots of people really enjoyed the KO match view we did for particularly the Villa game, which on that one it had the GIFs that popped up on the screen when super chats and new members were put in, and some sounds. So that's going to be coming back soon too, because lots of people really enjoyed that. If there are any moments in particular that you want me to find, because a lot of the GIFs are from like certain videos or certain, like, shall we say, iconic moments in the history of United View. So if there are any ones in particular or any sounds in particular that you guys like, let me know, probably in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter at OWEN United View, or on Instagram in the DMs, and I'll go find them and I'll go make them as well. Because they're a lot of fun. There's some really good ones. There's like the one, there was nothing worse than being 2-0 down against Aston Villa, and the GIF kept popping up of KG pointing to his chest and giving it like or KG zooming in like that. Lil Yo says, need the flex spinner Rooney. That was in there. That was one of them. I believe that was the £10 super chat. It was the flex spinner Rooney. And then Booker T says, tell me he didn't just say that. That was yes. And also what we'll do when we have them on in future match views, we'll let you know, maybe in like the video description, which ones are which. So if you want to see something in particular, you can have that right. Now, finally, Jadon Sancho. Want to talk about Jadon Sancho because we've got some a little bit of update with Jadon Sancho and his loan move and what have you. So, Fabrizio Romano has said in the last few hours that Jadon Sancho's travelled to Marbella to join Borussia Dortmund's training camp is being prepared as final details are being discussed with Manchester United. It's about final steps of the negotiation, but the fee will be around €4 million between loan and salary coverage. Sancho is waiting for the green light to travel. Now, it was suggested that maybe Dortmund wanted him today in the training camp, or wanted him to be flying out today. But according to the outlets based in Germany and the big reporters, big hitters in Germany for Sky Sports, Deutschland, Florian Plettenberg and Patrick Berger, they've both said that it's highly likely that Jadon Sancho will not land in Marbella to join Borussia Dortmund's team today, as negotiations are still ongoing. So despite there being some initial hope from their end, or from the German end, as it were, that Sancho was going to be landing and maybe we're going to be getting a here we go today. I mean, I suppose we could still technically get a here we go today, but as far as him travelling out and landing and joining the Dortmund team today, that looks like it's not going to happen. Those negotiations are still ongoing, but it's going to happen, isn't it? The Sancho one's happening. Ten Hag couldn't really say too much about it yesterday in the press conference, but he's not really one to really said anything about Jadon Sancho anyway. But not a lot more needs to be said, does it? You know, whenever this issue gets brought up, there are still people that are very, very prickly about it, about Sancho and the comments in question and this, that, and the other. I will leave it at this when it comes to Jadon Sancho. I hope it works out. That's it. And I don't mean that facetiously at all. I really do. I hope it works out. I hope it gets back to his best. I hope it leads to a big move, whether that's to Dortmund or whether that's elsewhere in the summer, because if he does well at Borussia Dortmund, then his price tag's gone up and Manchester United can at least recoup some of the money they spent, and they can put that into finding a replacement and helping what hopefully will be a big summer overhaul, both when it comes to departures and incomings for Manchester United. That's the most important thing when it comes to Sancho. So legitimately, really hope it does work out with him. Really hope he finds his best form, because you never want to see a young player not playing. And the situation that it is at Manchester United, that's a mess. That is a total mess. And you don't want to be frozen into a constant state of this guy training with the academy because he's had a falling out with the manager and this, that, and the other. It's not a good situation. He needs to move on. The club needs to move on. Hopefully he does well. That will allow him to seek a future permanent move for Manchester United to get some decent money for him. Then all parties win. That's the crux of the situation. And hopefully for Jadon Sancho, things turn around for him and he can play for England again. I don't think he probably makes the Euro squad this summer. Probably because even if it really worked out at Dortmund, there's not enough time. I think his form would have to be, astronomically good for that to happen. And we've just got so many quality forward players in that England squad. So I think he'll probably miss out by that point. But for me, the key thing is that he goes there, he starts playing football again, gets his form up, then United can try and sell him. Because if this was the summer right now and we were trying to sell Jadon Sancho, we wouldn't get that much money for him because he hasn't played for that long. And look, he hasn't played that well for United in his entire tenure here. Whatever reason you want to put that down to, whether that's Sancho's fault, whether that's the club's fault, whether that's different managers' fault, whatever it may be. Park the reason to one side. The crux of the matter are he hasn't played very well and his value isn't what it was 3 years ago when we signed him. It's just not. So what we do need for Jadon Sancho from a business point of view is to pick up his form, play regularly, and then people will be interested and we can try and get back some of that transfer fee and then put that into a summer signing. That's it. And Jadon Sancho's just joined the list of several sort of bigger names, larger names that have come to United and hasn't worked out. And maybe it's just hopefully one of the last instances, but it's not actually, because there are players that are still at the club that aren't good enough. But it's just another name in sort of the past decade, a big name, a franchise signing, if you will, a commercial signing, an exciting signing, a big name that's come to Old Trafford and very quickly it hasn't worked out. And that's the best way to describe it. Hasn't worked out for Jadon Sancho, certainly. So there you go. Anyway, guys, that's a transfer view for you today. Let me check and caught up when it comes to Super Chats. Indeed, I am. How many likes we ended up at? We've got over 1,000 people watching still. Only 276 likes. We can at least get to 350 as we sort of wrap things up. Surely we can. Surely we can get to 350 or something like that. I know it's Friday. I know people might be on their commutes. I know people, to be fair, whenever I was working in an office, Friday, I was always working from home. Put in the group, WFH, work from home. Work from home today, guys. Work from home. Or the tip is, this is a good one, is ask around on the Thursday. You working from home tomorrow? Oh, I was thinking about it. Yeah, probably work from home. You working from home tomorrow? Yeah, I was thinking about it. Probably work from home. Probably work. And then you start going around. Everyone probably working from home tomorrow. And then they start going, yeah. And you go, well, if everyone else is working from home, then I'll because no one's going to be in. If no one's going to be in, there's no point, So I'll just work from home. Let's work from home tomorrow. Some people will be working remotely, of course, which is the dream. But yeah, WFH, work from home. And then, if there is someone in the office, can you make sure you can divert my phone, please? Yeah. Well, I'll work from home. I'll work from home today. I think it's Friday and work from home. And then next thing you know, you're sort of doing the classic sort of sleep like that call. You look at it and go, is it important? If you're on Teams, what was the one? Link. There was one called Link. Just change myself to busy. Boom. What are you doing? I'm busy. Busy. Well, work from home. WFH today. So I work from home. Anyway, that's a tangent. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. What's on tap for the rest of the day? Well, the press conference was yesterday. So if you want to check out the press conference, you can check that. It was a day early for whatever reason. I don't know why. I'm not sure why, but there you go. So you can check that out then. Tomorrow, you'll probably get a preview tomorrow for the game against Wigan on Monday. Sunday, the full view will be back 7 p.m. Look, sometimes I say it and it appears on the screen like magic. Incredible. Sunday, 7 p.m. The full view will be back with the full panel discussing all things United. Then, of course, Monday, we're going to have the match view. It's going to be 7:45 because it's an 8:15 kickoff. FA Cup third round. I kicked off last night the third round with Everton Palace. What a terrible game that was. Oh, awful game. Calvert-Lewin's red card was an absolute disgrace. But it's by the by, completely different. So yes, as I mentioned, you can check all that stuff out. I'm out of here. Have a great Friday. I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.